show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
And our guest tonight is ourselves.
Yes.
Welcome to Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies. My name's Jay Katz.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Aspasia.
Oh, right.
Sorry, we're just gonna
flash. We should take
Somebody.
those notifications off when we're doing the show. There's so much to think about.
Exactly.
This is episode 70.
Yep.
Panpsychism.
Mm-hmm.
May the Space Force be with you.
Absolutely.
So I want to dedicate this show
Mm-hmm.
to two incredibly close friends
Yes.
that are so active in the community of assisting
Mhm.
those that are a bit downtrodden. So Veronica and Kerry,
Oh,
this
yes.
show is dedicated to.
Mhm.
They're extraordinary people. There's so much pain and suffering in the world. There always has been. There always will be.
Yeah,
I wish there wasn't any of it whatsoever.
exactly.
But those two make the world a much better
They do.
place. So
And a
thank
funnier
you.
place.
And thank
especially
you
with
so much
Veronica.
for your support, Kerry and
Yeah.
Veronica.
Yeah.
Well, Veronica's always working flat out, Aspasia. Absolutely flat out.
Yeah, I know.
We are broadcasting on stolen land, the
We
Gadigal
are.
people of the Eora Nation, and we wish to pay our respects and acknowledge elders past, present, and
And
emerging. Well, tonight it's really interesting because we sort of hit very early in the piece with Untold Radio a sort of point in the road, a transitional point, a minimal
Yes.
space
Yes.
where a liminal space where
Liminal.
we thought, what are we going to do? We're going to get a whole pack of ghost hunters. And when you consider when we looked the other day at the algorithm and the numbers
Yes.
of things that are loaded up daily onto YouTube,
3.7 million.
3.7, at least 1 million of those would be podcasts. We want to try and cut as unique a path as we can.
Sure.
And also
That'll keep us in the low numbers, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I told you we are doing the opposite of clickbait. We move
Yeah.
into complete obscurity.
Obscurity, absolutely.
Jim Myers did a great show with David
He
Pilates
did.
on Sasquatch Outpost this
Yeah,
week, and
yeah.
that has taken the algorithm through the
Right
roof.
up. I know.
Thousands of people. Still, the haters come on
Oh
board.
my God.
There is so much jealousy,
It's just-
absurdity,
I
and character assassination.
Can't believe.
We've all got past indiscretions, some
Ah.
bigger than others.
Yeah.
Leave people alone. Look at their creative work
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
and the effectiveness of it. And if you can't see anything good, then move on to the other 3.7 million
Yeah.
casts. You'll find
Yeah.
something there for you.
Exactly.
So if you're full of crap, get out of the chat. That's my line, isn't it? I want to
Wow.
say thank you to all our other supporters and the people that do come into the chat room
Yeah.
and the salt that is the salt of the
Yes.
earth of Untold Radio.
John is.
John is fantastic, isn't he? His humor is remarkable.
It is.
His strength is incredible,
Yeah.
and his ability to sort of dalliance the late night hours in terms of those early morning shifts where the man is literally buried underground, chipping
I know.
endlessly. So, John,
Talk about,
we
you know,
salute you.
We do say that. I always say to you because especially when you've had a long DJ run, you know, you've been DJing for 5 hours straight.
Yeah, which is nothing.
Well, you say to
Nothing.
me sometimes, "Oh, that was a heavy duty one," and I'm like, "Well, at least you don't work in a salt mine." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, wow.
Malcolm,
Anyway.
Uncle Bone, Charlotte, Jay,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
she's an extraordinary mother. There's so many great people next to him. There's
Heaps.
I can't name them
Alex
all.
Zanoni.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Alex is
Alex
always there. Yeah,
is fantastic.
absolutely.
Alex is our he's our ballast.
He is.
isn't he?
He is.
So I think what we should do at the beginning here, so what we're going to work through the idea of panpsychism,
Yeah.
and that is that universe out there alive? This concept dates back as far as Socrates,
Absolutely.
probably much earlier.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an extension. It's this steroid version of Gaia.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that notion. Allegorically, metaphorically, it's beautiful.
Sorry, can you have a look at my back, see if there's something on there? No. Okay, no.
Are you all right?
Yeah. No,
What was that?
I don't know.
Maybe it's something
Felt
slipping in through another dimension to give you a back massage during our damn podcast. Now, metaphorically, allegorically, I think it's a beautiful notion.
It is.
That everything's alive, so we should respect it all. But
well, they say it's expanding, so it's got to be alive if it's expanding.
Some really interesting things have happened in the, about to 2017. A couple of great Italian scientists came on board. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But let's go to the profound English writer and philosopher who left us so early in the piece, in the 70s, Alan Watts, and just get a bit of a basis to this episode, which is about the meaning of life.
The reason why certain people turn to philosophy, why I became a philosopher, was that since I was a little boy, I always felt that existence as such was weird. I mean, here we are. Isn't that odd? Of course it's odd. What do you mean by odd? Well, it's what's different from even. I mean, what's odd stands out. What's even lies flat. But you can't see the outstanding without the flat background. Here's the thing standing out. It's odd. Each one of you is odd. Strange, unique, particular, different. How do we know what we mean by that, except against the background of something even, that is not differentiated, like space? And so you get this philosophical itch. You begin to scratch your head and think about, why is that so? Well, after a while, you realize that's a meaningless question. And you ask, how is it so? Well, that leads you into science and other investigations. So you want to know, what is it? I mean, this happening, this thing called existence. What is it? You ask that question long enough, and it suddenly hits you that if you could answer it, you wouldn't know what terms to put the answer in. I mean, when we investigate the properties of nature, and we do get some answers, all the answers are in terms of particular structures, forms, patterns. And these can be measured, and their behavior can be predicted. But when I want to ask the question, what are the forms made of? I mean, what is it really? We can't think of any way in which we could answer the question, because we would have to have a class of all classes. When you ask the question, what? It's like saying, is you is or is you ain't? Is you animal? Is you vegetable? Is you mineral? Are you a Republican or a Democrat? Are you male or female? Are you a Christian or a Jew or a Hindu or what have you? We classify always to give an answer to the question, what is it? And when you classify, you distinguish an inside group from an outside group. Right. So what we want to know is, what is the group of all groups? Well, we can't imagine what the outside would be. So we can't answer the question. What is it? So the physicists finally abandoned the quest for stuff. And they gave us a description of the universe entirely in terms of form. The pattern, not the stuff. When people ask, what's the web? Yeah, but you can't do that. What's the pattern made of? Surely mustn't there be an answer to that? See, what happens is, when you turn up the microscope, all stuff turns into form. It becomes articulate. You know, the carpet looks like some sort of stuff. But when you look at it under a microscope, you will see the crystalline structure of the nylon or whatever it's made of. See? They want to know, what are those crystals made of? All right? Turn up the volume, and you will find molecules. Turn up the volume. You find wavicles. But we think the wavicles must be of something. But of course they're not. We find substance or stuff totally vanishes. We say, does it matter? What does that mean? Does it matter?
Does it matter? I think, therefore I am.
Okay.
Now, it's quite astounding because Descartes centuries ago came up with that profound line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the end he extended it, but Descartes also was the man that gave us the materialistic, mechanistic,
That's
scientific
scientific. Yeah.
view of the world, which in many ways is paradoxical.
It's not. We're so organic.
But
Everything
his
is
notion
organic,
was,
isn't it?
in the end was, I doubt that I think, therefore the doubt is enough to make me realize I'm here.
am.
But
Yeah.
people said, that's subjective. You're talking about I.
Yeah.
What you should just state is thinking is going on.
Right.
Thinking is going on. Now, incredibly profound and beautiful words there from Mr. Watts.
Yeah.
And spoke about, the microcosm versus the macrocosm.
macro.
You and I have been discussing this for years.
Absolutely.
And recently, incredible photomicroscopy, excuse my pronunciation of that word, has captured literally hundreds of thousands of interactive brain cells. And that's when two Italian scientists, an astrophysicist and a neuroscientist, held those photos up parallel alongside. Do you want to give me their names?
Oh, yes. Franco Bazza and Alberto Filetti.
So they held them up with the incredible imagery that we're now seeing from the Hubble.
That's
and
right.
more profoundly, even the James Webb telescope, out into deep space, looking at the nodules and said, there is an incredible similarity.
Absolutely.
Are we, Aspasia,
Yes.
living in someone else's brain?
The human brain is one of the most complex objects created by nature. And at the same time, it's one of the most understudied human organs. And the emergence of intelligence is almost the most important mystery after the emergence of the universe. But what if your brain is the universe? Believe it or not, there's an amazingly complex object in your head that is many times more powerful than any supercomputer. At the same time, it has rather a small size and consumes about 20 to 30 watts of energy, which is roughly comparable to the power of a light bulb. You might object. After all, the universe is much larger. How can they be similar given the crazy difference in scale? Yes, indeed. The scale differs by about 27 orders of magnitude. But just look how visually similar the networks of neurons in the brain are to the web of galaxies in the cosmos. How did such different scales, such different forces and processes give rise to such similar systems? Despite the huge differences in size, two Italian experts in completely different fields of science conducted an amazing study. Astrophysicist Franco Bazza from the University of Bologna and the neuroscientist Alberto Filetti from the University of Verona blew up the internet and the media with their research. They decided to compare the networks of the brain and the universe quantitatively. Studying these systems from different angles, it turned out that the structure, morphology, memory size, and other properties are very similar. That suggests that completely different physical processes can lead to very similar, complex, and organized structures. Your brain contains 69 billion neurons, cells that process information from your senses and send signals to your body through your nervous system. Neurons are networked by connections called axons and dendrites. That is, 100 trillion connections between neurons form a neural network. Thanks to this, we have the opportunity to think, feel, and generally be who we are. The universe at first glance looks like sections separated by space, but this is not entirely true. The universe that we see is called the observable universe, and this space is about 90 billion light years in diameter. And according to estimates, the observable universe includes about 100 billion galaxies. These galaxies, like our Milky Way, include billions of stars. The Milky Way, in turn, is part of a cluster of galaxies called the Local Group, which, in addition to the Milky Way, include about 100 other galaxies. But these clusters of galaxies are also grouped into the local supercluster of galaxies, or as it's also called, the Virgo supercluster. And yes, it's very similar to networks of neurons. But what about the spaces in between? Is there just a void? Here, scientists make a very interesting comparison. About 77% of the brain consists of fluid, and about 70% of the universe is filled with dark energy. That is, the space between groups and clusters isn't empty, but contains compounds of passive materials. Dark energy in the universe, or fluid in the brain, they fulfill their indirect role in their respective structures, and the remaining 30% of the mass of each system is made up of galaxies or neurons. By analyzing and comparing the density of these systems, scientists found a remarkable similarity between the fluctuating density of matter in the brain and the cosmic web. Consequently, the universe can be thought of as a giant network of galaxies connected like neural networks in the brain. Vaza and Folletti also found that these networks are more similar to each other than other physical or biological structures, such as tree branches, water turbulence, or the dynamics of cloud formation. All of these systems have a fractal organization. Fractal patterns have a property of self-similarity. For example, they repeat themselves completely or partially irrespective of scale. On the contrary, the universe looks very different on a smaller scale than on a larger one. Galaxies don't look at all like the cosmic web they create, so the brain ceases to look like a neural network when observed at different scales. Based on these results, researchers conclude that similar network configurations can arise from the interaction of completely different physical processes, resulting in the same levels of complexity and self-organization, despite significant differences in scale. In other words, networks such as the human brain and the universe may have a similar structure, but be completely different in size and formed by different processes. Nevertheless, something may have caused them to develop and grow in the same way. However, despite the similarities, the universe and the brain also have differences. For the study, samples were taken from the brain, or rather, the cerebral cortex. But the brain itself is heterogeneous, and its different parts have a certain structure which perform their function and are responsible for different tasks. At the same time, the universe is homogeneous, almost in all directions. In addition, connections between neurons serve to transfer information, while connections in the universe only transfer energy and matter. There have also been other amazing research studies where the authors suggest that the universe itself is a neural network, where the universe is constantly self-learning and learning itself. It's worth noting that the principle of the neural network and its structure are borrowed from neurobiology. It consists of a sequence of neurons connected by synapses. Each of these neurons receives data, processes them, and then transmits them to another neuron. Actually, the very idea of a neural network is to imitate human brain activity using a mathematical model. A new approach to cosmology, or just another pseudoscience? Let's look into it further. Scientists claim that the laws of the universe evolve similar to the processes that occur in machine learning systems. However, the authors don't say that the universe is a neural network. Rather, they suggest that the properties of our universe are the result of learning, like neural networks. That is, we can never fully understand all the principles of the world and their laws because of constant self-learning and evolution, the universe simply will not allow us to fully understand its structure and control its laws. But the authors suggest that their theory would help unify general relativity and quantum theory. In addition, their models could be used in building entirely new architectures. For example, for quantum machine learning systems, perhaps we could simulate at the quantum level the early stages of the universe, or on the contrary, look millions of years into the future.
Well, that explained a part of it, and it's an incredible
I think
hypothesis.
my brain just melted.
It's an incredible hypothesis, an idea, but it sort of fits in to a lot of logical systems we deal with in terms of, or illogical systems, people would call them, in terms of anomalous research.
Yeah.
It also runs along the lines of the extraordinary work into the morphogenic resonance that Rupert Sheldrake has given the world.
Yes.
And what we need to do is actually, he does a whole series of great lectures. So go and look up Sheldrake's work if you're unaware of it.
He's fascinating.
And he's done some incredible
He will
peer
expand your
reviewed.
mind.
He's written, I mean, I think there's at least 90 papers out there.
Yeah.
People think that Sheldrake's been cast as an outsider
He's not.
in the scientific world, but his experiments on telepathy, animal telepathy, phones ringing, all that sort of
He
stuff
looks into everything.
is quite remarkable. The macrocosm and the microcosm, let's have a look at a couple of those photos. Brain cells and galaxies.
Yeah, there's a
do have an
comparison.
extraordinary,
Oh my God.
and they're not trying to say to you that, the cosmos
course.
is actually consciously talking to us.
No.
But the cosmos is doing what has been happening from time immemorial.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is, you're preening me at the moment.
Yeah, I am.
That's love.
It
That's
is.
an astounding thing. The cosmos is forever invested, as Louise told us last week, in novelty,
That's
in
right.
creation. It's trying to understand itself as much as we're trying to understand the environment and who we are.
Yeah.
Now, I have always taken that path with you because of our film historian history.
Yeah. Go on.
Because of our film historian history, that it's reflecting pool culture.
It is.
And primarily,
Big time.
it
Big
reflects back in popular themes that appear across our cultures. And one of those is the arena of film. I actually, when Jim Myers was talking to David Pilates about the vast amount of people who suffer illness or have
mental health issues.
Mental health issues or physical
or disabilities,
that go missing in
mental
the missing 411 collective.
Yes.
I actually brought up the only double episode of the original Outer Limits called The Inheritance.
Yes, that's an amazing episode.
It's an incredible episode, and it's basically about the aliens abducting individuals like that, which is
in particular disabled children. Yeah.
And it's proverbially, it is the meek will inherit the earth.
Yeah.
And so it's an absolutely beautiful statement. And I actually postulated that up into the chat room. I think I've got a bit of confusion happening there at that point. So what we're going to do now is we're going to step to a couple of moving trailers on here. For films that I am totally surprised that you can go and look at in their entirety on YouTube. And they're in high def. They're beautiful.
Amazing.
These are by the Russian director, Andrei Tarkovsky.
Yep.
And these postulate the notion that the human mind has an effect on the environment it's in. One from the late 70s, 1979, called The Stalker.
The Stalker, yeah.
And how about this? They shot that entire film on very bad film stock.
Yeah, right.
And when they finally got to the labs to start editing, they realized it was all unusable.
Wow.
They had to go back and shoot the entire thing again.
Oh my God.
That is profound.
Wow.
And then the first film, which Clooney grabbed and made an Americanized version that was nowhere near the truth of this,
of course not,
is Solaris.
Solaris, yeah.
Both these films cross over the notion of invention of let me get the right words here. some sort of interconnection with the cosmic
Right.
consciousness.
Sure.
In the Stalker, there is a zone after a meteorite that is full of alien artifacts. There is a room in that zone where your ultimate desires, but the moment you walk into that zone, your own subconscious will start creating things around you.
Right.
And that's why you need to take a stalker to guide you
Through it. Right.
And most people don't need to discover what their ultimate desires are
No.
because they will come back and bite you.
Always.
And Solaris is about a space station that's hovering over a watery, gaseous planet
Right.
that keeps actually prompting the subconscious mind of everyone involved on the station.
Okay.
The deepest, darkest fears, the deepest emotions come true. Let's have a look for the trailers of these. If you've never seen a Tarkovsky film, go and look him up. He is seen as one of those profound, brilliant directors of the 20th century.
So we're going to look at Solaris first.
Yes. When people talk about Kubrick's 2001,
Yeah.
you know what? Have a look at this film.
Yeah.
It is as if it is equal and beyond. And philosophically, it's much more profound. Let's
So
go
that's Solaris.
That's Solaris from 72.
Not the Clooney one.
No, don't go there.
No, don't.
Well, if you have gone there, you might have enjoyed it. But please, here's
go to the
sweet
original.
Anton.
Oh, there he is.
He's going through so much hell.
He's all right. Okay. Now, we're going to the Stalker.
Это зона. Примерно лет 20 тому назад здесь будто бы упал метеорит. Здесь исполнится ваше самое заветное желание.
Even just watching those trailers fills me with this incredible awe. The production design, the sets, the cinematography, and the philosophy. I mean, it is Russian. You're going to have to go for subtitles, and they get rather ponderous, but they reflect that notion of panspermia. I mean, not panspermia, panpsychism. Being a panpsychic. Back on us. Our minds affect the environment we're in. Now, Sheldrake actually stated that the mind is an arena of possibilities. and that the future only exists inside our consciousness.
Mhm.
Now is literally history. The moment we actually perceive now,
Yeah, it's gone.
it's gone.
Yeah.
So a meteorite came down.
So there's only the past and the future. There's no now,
Yeah.
because now is just
And
gone.
we need
It
to
goes.
make those possibilities a reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the stalker there spoke about a meteorite that came down that
Mhm.
created this zone. Look what happened in Melbourne recently.
Space junk that blazed across the night sky, causing the ground to shake, has startled Melbourne locals who feared it was an earthquake.
What the is that?
Pretty amazing.
Locals took to social media to share photos and videos of the mysterious image that soared over the city shortly after midnight. It was not immediately clear whether the display was from a meteor or a comet. Nonetheless, it was fascinating for all the Melburnians who got to witness it.
Wow.
So
Space junk that blazed.
Melbourne may be turning into the zone of the stalker in Australia. So let's see what happens from there.
Yeah.
Now, as you'd be aware, this week is an incredible week in science
Well,
and space exploration.
not for me. It's not.
When the Intuitive Machines company in the US
Give me a break.
finally lands back on the moon after 52 years with an unmanned surveyor
We're going
probe.
backwards. We're actually going backwards. We did all this pre 69.
But we're not.
All that stuff was done all pre
Now,
69
hang in there.
with the technology from back then.
All right.
Here we are now. You're saying 52 years later, and now we are replicating things that we did 52 years ago.
Yeah, we need to.
What's the big deal?
We need to do them
No.
with human beings.
Yeah, well, no. What is the big deal? I don't understand how this is a groundbreaking, jumping up and down. What is the big deal?
Let me tell you, we had a funeral yesterday, and it was quite frustrating in terms of this landing. Because,
It was.
Because in 1969, and you would have experienced this with me, I watched the first
I did too.
supposed
At school.
and I believe they went there, but
Yeah.
you have
Well,
question marks.
I have question marks, but
And it was very interesting to hear Doug Hychek the other day go, look, I'm okay with all this, but why don't they do something with the iris on their camera and show us the stars in deep
just
space?
show us a whole bunch of things
Yeah,
that happen. But
and
anyway,
so I was amazed that Doug actually articulated that line. And
Yeah.
all of us have the right to question and
Sure.
postulate and put forward assumptions and ideas and hypotheses. And if you don't like them, well, find another
just
channel.
lump them.
It's the Truman
If you don't
Show.
like them, you don't
It
like
really
them.
is the Truman Show.
It is. Switch over to another channel.
So I can remember sitting in the school hall with at least 500 other students
Same here.
watching a 20-something
20-inch set,
TV.
black and
Excuse
white
me. Yeah,
TV set.
barely seeing it.
I know.
Yesterday, the astounding thing is
What?
I was able to go online.
We replicated the same thing.
Oh, excuse
Big
me.
deal.
Bless you. I
Big
was able to go online and actually talk to
A kid.
he was an engineer in training.
A kid.
He was quite brilliant.
There was, yeah.
And so I started to ask him questions. And if we'd have enough time,
Mm.
because we've had funerals for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, very sad, very tragic.
Yeah. Oh, people die every day, for Christ's sakes.
Okay,
Get over it.
Thank you for your pragmatism. Just hit me like a brick.
Yeah.
Anyway, it always affects me emotionally.
Yeah,
That's why
sure.
I hate to
I
see
totally
the loss.
understand.
It's not for the person that's gone.
Oh, the person
who's
that's
out of
gone
their
is
suffering or whatever.
It's they're on to the next leg of their journey, which
Yeah.
is much better
And
than the one we're here.
One had gone way too young and left too many children
Sure,
behind it.
yeah.
That's where.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
where
know
you get
what?
sad.
Wasn't it an incredible thing to go from that school in '69? Now I'm talking to someone who's got a link directly to NASA.
In your underpants, in your kitchen.
Yeah, my kitchen. So I said, why is this? What is the name? Why is this intuitive machines? He goes, they're not.
How are they
intuitive.
intuitive? Yeah, you
He
said,
goes-
are these, how intuitive are they? He
Yeah.
said they're not.
You said they're not. It's a
just
company
the
logo. It's a
name.
trademark.
It's a trademark. So that was like, you were thinking that this is AI stuff, that they're intuitive, right?
But the one,
And it's not. It's so
you
misleading.
know, the one thing
so
that really
misleading.
frustrated me
What was
this.
that, Cats?
There are numerous cameras on board that
Oh,
craft. We
yeah.
had footage right at the beginning of Apollo when Neil Armstrong walked down.
Yeah.
You know, one small step for man, one giant leap for propaganda.
Yeah.
And
you said to him, you were watching.
I was watching what looked like real footage.
Well, the landing.
I said, "No, what are we looking at?
Yeah,
is this a simulation or is this the truth?" He goes, "It's a simulation."
So here we are, 52 years later. We still haven't got equipment good enough to be able to film the landing.
I don't know if it's that.
Well, what is it?
It makes, and I said, "Look,
what is it?"
And I noticed in the chat.
They anger me, these people. They really anger me.
The debunkers had gone berserk.
Of course they have.
Wouldn't it have been a great thing to at least give us, you know, a couple of minutes or a shot of this thing landing on the surface?
The real thing.
Instead of watching this, wouldn't that assist the debunkers of any of this material?
Shut them up.
And he said, look, the company are doing this because they're afraid that the machine's going to crash, like so many have, because everyone's racing back to the moon. And I think
was it last year China landed on its head?
Upside down, suppose. I'm not sure.
There we go.
Anyway, don't quote us anywhere. Don't look up the material yourself. We are the most flawed podcast in that regard. Anyway, he said they are afraid that their stock will drop if there is an incident. And that financially they won't be able to go ahead and get the contract from NASA.
What?
Because NASA's put these contracts
to send another machine to land on the moon. They've been sending. The Russians were sending. You know, the Russians, all they did was send probes and machines.
They knew it was dangerous to send human beings.
Well, you know. And they were doing it back there. I don't know why we're jumping up and down at the moment, and they're making out like this is such a momentous, you know, occasion in history that this thing has happened when it happened 50 odd years ago. What is the big deal? I don't understand.
Well, the thing is, it's not only to exploit the moon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right. But it's also a stepping stone on the way to Mars. And NASA recently...
Oh, my God. You still can't send people to the moon at the moment, and you keep talking about going to Mars.
Can we calm a bit? That Greek temperament of yours is beautiful.
This thing just frustrates me no end. Seriously, no end. And, you know, you saying then that, or they saying that they're afraid that it's going to, you know, drop their stock. It's like, is this a scientific mission, or is this an exploitation, money-making business corporate thing?
Yeah, it's always exploitation.
That's all it is, you know?
But, you know, recently NASA's been out to recruit 4 volunteers. You might like to go up on this. I think they've already been recruited.
I'm telling you now, no one's going anywhere. No one is going anywhere. They don't have
NASA is looking for a few good Martians. The space agency is recruiting 4 volunteers to spend a year inside a simulated Mars habitat at the Johnson Space Center. So one such experiment's already underway. The volunteers will do Mars chores like growing crops, working with robots, and taking simulated spacewalks. Mars chores. Applicants must speak English. You have to be between 30 and 55. Advanced degrees in engineering or science preferred. But pilots and veterans welcome as well. The application deadline is April 2nd.
There you go. The April 2nd, I think it's come and gone. I think they've got their volunteers.
No, April 2nd.
But
that was last year.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But let's have a look inside their habitat.
How many times have they done this?
You know, they built the habitat with a 3D printer.
Yeah.
They have done it many times, and they're actually going to do it.
What more are they going to learn?
That they did find people were breaking out of that habitat and going to nightclubs.
That's what I mean. It's like you can't contain people.
Have you heard about this? 4 volunteers will soon spend an entire year inside a small habitat at Johnson Space Center in Houston.
It is all part of a program to better prepare mankind for future missions to Mars. Jason Miles has a look inside.
Mars may be 145 million miles from Earth, but missions to the red planet could come as soon as the 2030s.
And so this is a really good insight to seeing if that's even possible.
That is CHAPEA, or Crew Health and Performance Exploration Analog.
It's an isolation and confinement mission for a year with a crew of 4.
4 astronaut-like paid volunteers will spend 12 full months in this 1,700 square feet habitat, which houses things like tiny bedrooms, a living space, an area to grow their own food, and a medical bay.
We actually are collecting a lot of biological samples throughout this mission to evaluate health.
This is video of the 3D printed structure taking shape inside a large warehouse. The crew will be monitored 24/7, performing simulated spacewalks and other activities, only without a lack of gravity. This area is called the sandbox and is meant to mimic the Mars surface. NASA even went as far as to dye all of this sand.
It's really wonderful how we can go up to a year isolation and confinement with a lot of resource restrictions, food, water, things we're expecting from Mars to be restricted.
Psychological and physiological impacts are among the things that will be studied before data then helps design future Mars missions. The volunteers taking part in this mission will be revealed in the coming weeks. At Johnson Space Center, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
So it looks like they've actually picked the 4, and I feel for those people because a couple of months into it, they're going to be wanting to watch
kill each other.
Netflix show.
They're going to kill each other.
They're going to be wanting to watch the second season of Space Force. Do you know what I mean?
What was that? I think Moonbase 8. I thought I saw, which was hilarious.
Now here we go. You know something's wrong where your news anchor on a serious news report can't stop from chuckling.
Yeah,
Not
right.
because of indiscriminate slip of the tongue, because of the nature of the concept. Let's see how valid the concept is. Have you heard of chicken leg syndrome?
No, I have not.
No, that's through muscle wasting.
Oh, right,
I
okay.
think we're actually seeing it with the back legs of our cat at 19
Oh,
years
right,
of
okay,
age
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
We are going to Mars one day, and we know that even if the technology is ready, we'll be a no-go for launch because the human body and the human systems are not ready. We have Scott Kelly and his Russian counterpart, Mikhail Kornienko, who have been on board the space station for almost a year. They're getting ready to come back on March 1st. A one-way trip to Mars is at least 6 to 8 months, so it's really important for us to understand how the human body adapts beyond 6 months. For Scott and Mikhail, they have become subjects for us to test what happens to the human body 8 to 12 months while it's in space. Astronauts will come back and they weigh much less than when they went up. So we know that with the muscle atrophy and the bone density loss, they are losing 1.5% of bone a month, which is equivalent to what a postmenopausal woman loses in a year. We found that exercising every day, doing high resistive exercise, proper nutrition, and some vitamin D supplements actually reverse the effects of bone density. So there's a lot we can learn so that we are successful in sending humans on a journey to Mars one day. We found very recently that their vision decreases as a result of fluid shifting towards the head in a non-gravitational environment. And then that swells some of the optic nerves, causing a decrease in vision. And so it's really important to understand what are some of the things we can do to counteract that. There's an investigation now that Scott and his counterpart Mikhail is going through called fluid shifts, and that is using a pants we call the chibis, which sucks the fluid back down towards the legs. And we are hoping to find that would counteract some of the vision impairment losses that they are seeing. They're subjected to radiation. Of course, the space station is not always shielded from radiation, so there are some radiation exposure effects. Their heart shrinks as a result of not being able to have the heart pump blood towards the feet because they're not walking, they're floating. And so Scott and Mikhail during this one-year mission is really our first adventure in finding out what happens and how we can counteract the human adaptations for a long journey to Mars.
What?
You weren't on that then. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Isn't that astounding?
So when they get to Mars, they need a team of people to carry them off the ship. And they need either a white cane and a dog, a seeing eye dog, to help them. What is that? Their heart shrinks. It's like, what is going on here?
I feel for Scott and Mikhail there because they're being
Well,
used
yeah.
as guinea
Well,
pigs.
but they know that, right? But that's
Did you find
so
those
does that-
sucking trousers erotic? Do you think we're
Not
going to
at
see
all.
them? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even going to touch that one with a 10-foot barge pole. But it's like all those issues. I mean, it looked like that you had to spend most of your time in that 6 to 8 months of supposedly going to Mars, just working out 24/7. So when you get out there, you're not a cripple. And I don't know what they're going to do about their sight. That's only just the few things, because, here's the reality too. The space station is not in space. The space station is in low Earth orbit. So it's not in space, and they're not getting the full radiation of outer space.
How about when they actually stated that it's not, at times there's not proper shielding?
Well, yeah, the few times that there's not proper shielding, but because it's still in low Earth orbit, they're not getting as much radiation. Once they go out through the Van Allen belt and into outer space, they're going to be so bombarded by radiation. Who knows? They'll probably be fried by the time they get
throw
anywhere.
in a solar flare. But maybe Horace can help us, the professor
I
of astronomy.
I just see when they
clarity on
do,
this.
it's like they're doing this, the simulation again. Simulation. They're trying to get at the same. They can't, because they don't know what it's really
Maybe
like.
they're
there.
better off just doing it as a TV series.
I want to welcome our newest 4-star general, Mark Naird, formerly number 2 at the Air Force.
Thank you. It has always been my dream to command a service branch.
Our nation's internet runs through our vulnerable space satellites. POTUS wants complete space dominance. To that end, the president is creating a new branch, Space Force, which Mark will run.
What?
There you go. So here we go.
Steve Carell's
with that
hilarious.
notion that we're talking about with Tarkovsky there is the mirroring effect of popular culture and what's happening with science at the time. Do we do this consciously or unconsciously? That announcement by Donald Trump, who said, what a brilliant idea, Space Force. No one's come up with that before. Donald, they were postulating the possibility of Space Force back in Dwight Eisenhower's time.
Dwight Eisenhower.
And there has been many moments where other presidents have pushed for Space Force and it wasn't the right time. You just happened to be there and it was the only card in the deck that could liberate what was occurring politically for you. Anyway, Space Force does exist. And you and I have read some extraordinary articles recently of the training of Space Force. Can you actually go to the stills of the training of Space Force cadets and people involved for an alien invasion? And there was those stories of them being down there in Peru as well at the same time that we had our jet setting.
Oh, there it is.
So there's the Space Force official logo. Now, there's a bit of a branding problem here. And as I was saying before, just hold on. With Netflix, and I think it's in its second season, could be going to its third. I haven't even watched an episode of Space Force. It occurred virtually at the same time, so much so that Netflix were able to get the trademark in Europe, Australia, and the American military do not even own the real trademark. I think they do in the US.
Right.
But put that up again, please. Just pop that up.
Yeah.
Here's the logo. Now quickly go to the next image.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
See the similarity?
Yeah. Well, it's always the chevron.
Yeah.
That's
that's the
chevron.
USS Enterprise.
Yes.
From
yes.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Let's go back to
back there.
Space Force.
Yeah.
Back to the USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
I think we've got a problem here as well as with the trademark. Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
And look, I think the Russians could have a problem with this. Let's go to their one for the Russian Space Federation. Hit it.
Yeah. They all use the chevron.
Yeah,
what
but there is
there?
also a bit of plagiarism going on here.
Yeah, right.
And it's also, are we in reality or are we in fantasy?
I don't know.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some interesting things that Space Force is supposed to be doing, Aspasia, and I'll show you now.
Okay.
How about the space fence? You know, it's not bad enough to build a massive border down in Mexico.
Like a wall.
Let's build
a fence in space.
In space. It kills me. And by utilizing the LRDR. Do you know what that is?
No, I have no
The
clue.
long-range discrimination radar system up in Alaska.
How discriminatory is it?
Well, it looks fascinating, doesn't it?
Mm.
And maybe they're putting it together and training Space Force for this, which has happened with many nuclear tests, UFO interception. So who knows? I mean, isn't it extraordinary? And that series looks hilarious.
It
with
does.
Steve
I'm going to
Carell.
have to watch
It
it.
looks quite remarkable. So
we'll probably get more of the truth in that than anything that NASA's
may
telling us.
the Space Force be with you, Untold Radio viewers and
It's
listeners.
out of control, isn't
And
it?
if you're on an audio line, please pop up to YouTube occasionally and look at Down South Anomalies. We do get very visual. I really appreciate each and every one of you spending some time with us. We're not trying to actually make a statement. Did they go? Didn't they go? What is happening here? We're just looking at it from a philosophical perspective and a
I'm
cultural
looking at it from a
theory
logical perspective, not anything else. Some of the logic just doesn't make any sense.
You don't
to me
think
at
you're
all.
looking at it from
A Greek? What's he?
and tell people about where you're born, because I
What?
did marry a real lesbian
Well, what's that got to do with
from
anything?
Lesbos. Well, your particular
Our
little
village.
island, your village.
Well, the island, the village on this island.
What's it called?
It's Ayashos, right?
Ayashos.
And it's been around since the Byzantine time.
Yeah.
So it's like 1,000 years old.
And they are the
right?
most cynical,
And
caustic
we
people in the world.
we actually haven't changed in that time. We are very cynical. We're very caustic. We're very in your face. Do you know what I mean? It's like you see, like I went to a meeting, a while ago for the committee that I'm on, and I walked in and one of the ladies just said to me, just straight out to my, instead of saying hi, she goes, "God, you put on a lot of weight. You need to stop eating." You know what I mean? And you can't take.
There's no veneer.
No, none at all. It's just straight at you, and you can't take it
to heart.
To heart, you can't take a
Otherwise
like
you
not
collapse.
seriously. She doesn't mean it in a. She's just stating
pragmatic.
a fact. Obviously, she thought you can't see that you're putting on weight. You're looking like a heifer now. You need to stop eating. So she's going to tell me, because if I did realize it, she assumes that I would just stop eating. So obviously, I'm not seeing what is happening
That's
to me.
a very important point. And I think that happens with a lot of people that are unaware of the depth of cultures and the different ways of approaching things.
Yeah.
And things can be
here's-
misconstrued and taken out of context.
Because here's the thing. Like, last week I went, we went to that funeral of the girl, and
We
there
can be
was
so
like
personal here.
no, but like, because of the community that we have and that
profoundly
bond
beautiful.
that
Yeah.
binds us together.
Yeah.
There would have been about, what do you think, about 300 people
Yeah,
there
easy,
in the
easy,
church for
easy.
this funeral, and and it was, and they just all went there because we all felt we needed to get behind the parents and the rest of the family to support them in their grief, and we all felt
I
it.
was just
You know what I mean?
emotionally feeling that then,
Yeah.
because that would have been 20, 30 times more than the people were at my father's
Well,
funeral, who
yeah.
really gave a damn.
Absolutely,
and supported
but
the
there's a difference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even yesterday when we went to my brother-in-law's dad's funeral, there was, how many people were there? There was hundreds of them. It was out of control,
Yeah.
And you'd think, oh God, do they know? And it's like, yeah, these are all people from their village again. See, there's that village that where you came from, and that binds you. We don't have that here in Australia. You can't say, well, I'm from this suburb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like people don't even, they don't even know their neighbours. That you
That's
walk
frightening.
out your door every day and you see them and you don't know them. That should be enough to bind you, but it doesn't. There's something else at work. Anyway, I'm not going to go on and on about that, but this is who I am, and I look at things and I look at something and I say, this doesn't make any sense to me. And the problem with this whole thing, especially this space thing, there's a lot of propaganda there.
There's a lot of sales pitching.
There's big
There's
sales pitching. There's
selling this is
so much money. But you know what I see? And this is the sadness. All those people working, to make this happen, they truly believe.
Oh, yeah.
They truly believe that this is going to happen and that they're working towards.
And they have a right to believe
absolutely. And they're working. And that's the sadness for me, because they're being taken for a ride. Because when people, when you've got people
Only
saying,
time will
we're
tell.
not showing it to you because if it crashes, our stocks will go down. It's like, okay, if it crashes, it crashes. You know what? You don't have crashes if you're not trying,
Now,
if you're not out there working it.
This young
kid,
astrophysicist or engineer that I was
Yep.
speaking to, he was lovely.
He was.
So I postulated the UFO question to him,
Yeah.
and he came back
Cricket
and
noises.
basically, no.
No.
He stated that at the end of the day, all of it's prosaic, and you can dismiss it all with good scientific evaluation. And we had to run out the door at that stage. I was going to say, hold on a moment. Aren't you working in terms of assisting NASA here as well?
Yeah.
And NASA has recently gone up there and on Capitol Hill in Congress and stated that we do have a genuine phenomena here that we need to explain. It looks like it could be a danger to flight paths. It could be a national security issue. And I was thinking, good heavens, 2 steps forward, 20 back. It happens all the time.
Didn't that guy ever see the NASA files?
Yeah. That was a reasonable TV show.
That was a great TV
Had
show.
some anomalous moments.
Yep.
All right.
Anyway, look.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you. You have been listening to Down South Anomalies.
I say we're looking at Capricorn 2 at the moment.
Yeah, well, they're not going to cast OJ in that, I'll tell you that much.
That's not happening.
Anyway.
Anyway, actually, if you want to see Solaris or the Stalker in its entirety, it is up on YouTube.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
So check it out.
Both
it's like, I
brilliant
tell you,
films.
if you've got a couple of hours free, go and watch, especially Stalker.
Yeah, and
Stalker.
what the Stalker will do is make you realize that we are flawed. We are caught in our own perception. Everyone has their own individual reality tunnel. And so let's consider metaphorically that everything is alive. And let's respect people's differences of opinion unless they're really harmful and sadistic.
You don't
to
even have
others.
to respect them. Just let them be.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a comment on everything. It's, just because you've got a comment doesn't mean we all need to hear it.
Yeah, well, that's so. If you don't like what we're saying, just turn off.
Just turn it off.
You can't.
It's really that easy.
Stand. If you think this is crap, step out of the chat.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be back next week with more.
Thank
crap.
you so much, and we really appreciate you all. And again, Kerry and Veronica, this show's dedicated to you. Malcolm, Charlotte, Nexium, so many
John,
great people.
Alex, Bones, Uncle Bones,
Uncle Bones too. I'm going to go and live with that guy at some stage. We'll do some screenings in his backyard. Maybe we should go out in our search for Sasquatch when we finally get to the States, which I think won't be next year, but it'll be the year after.
2026, you reckon?
We'll just take our projector out into the woods out there with Jim Myers and start screening,
Oh, you didn't show Sasquatch sunset.
No. You know what, ladies and gentlemen?
Go and have a look at the
trailer. Have a look at the trailer for
Sasquatch sunset.
But make sure the children are out of the room.
Oh, look, children are probably watching porn when you're not in the room. Come on.
Okay.
It's on their computers.
Tim and
it's
Dana,
everywhere.
we love you. You're astounding people. Dr. Dean Bertram, you're incredible. Brad.
Alex and Doug, the whole
so many
team.
great people.
Aren't
on
they
this
just? All right,
Untold
we're just
Radio.
waffling now. We'll be back next week with more. See you later. Bye.